page of the page Ches. We are holding on line. My screen got a little bit stuck over here. We're holding towards the bottom of the page. Line. Line. I'm sorry.
27.
27. I thought so. Okay, so we were speaking about the idea of kinyonim, and we explained that just like a kinyan causes the transformation of something from one domain to another domain, the same thing we have the idea of the idea of kinyan beruchnius. The world of Atzilus is called kinyan from the word baruch koinech, because all it does is doesn't create something new. It only brings that which was concealed in the Oirin Sof, in the Maitzel, down into its world, and then it has to bring it by extension later on. Now, the problem is that when we come to our worlds, starting from Bri Yitzir Asiya, there's already a potential for things that are not in concert with Hashem. And they are things that are, our job is, lasis, lasakin, we need to like repair that, fix that up, and create that should be back into Hashem's domain. We need to bring it into Hashem's domain, where there it reaches its true perfection. And that is the idea of the kinyonim. That's the concept that we speak about, that there is kinyonim in in our Mishnah, Chamisha kinyonim kana kadosh baruch hu ba'olamai, that to make it olamai, to make it his world, part of the private domain of Hashem, that becomes a Rishus Hayachid Hashem, you need to have the idea of kinyon. So let's go on in line 27, 5 lines from the bottom. We also identified before that there are 2 ways of acquiring something in the physical realm. There is drawing the object into your domain or exchanging it for money, and we spoke about the different opinions about it, which is the Rabbanon, which is the Eraisa. So now he's going to explain these 2 types of kinyon and beruchnius, drawing this thing in, Meshicha versus Kesef. Kinyan zeh yeshem shnei efanim. And this acquisition, this kinyan, there are 2 types, 2 kinds of kinyon. Meshicha v'kesef, drawing and money. Meshicha koi alali is kol inyonia adam va'oil. Meshicha, just like we said before, drawing means you're pulling it from a public domain or from the seller's domain into a domain that's more connected with you, more of a private domain. The same thing, you're drawing and elevating all matters of the person and the world that are drawn, and they go up to the realm of Kedusha. How? Through a general avoid of the person, top of page test, through an inspiration down here below. That is Mashiach. Now, what is the idea of kesef, money? Kesef, kesef from the word, I have yearned, I've desired. That is referring to the love that comes from above in a way that Hashem is inspiring. So essentially, the way the Rebbe is dividing these 2 kinyonim, Meshicha versus Kesef, is Meshicha is Molmata Lamaila, it's what the person does, and Kesef is Molmaila Lamata, the inspiration that Hashem inspires. Gufa, and this itself, in the monetary type of transferal of ownership, in the level of Avim, Yeshlam Shnei Efanim, there's 2 types of Kesef. Dugma Shnei Inyon, Bekinyan Kesef Kipshutai. Just like there are the 2 approaches in literally buying something with money that we spoke about beforehand, the difference between the Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Do you need to draw it first because that makes the kinyan, and then after you've drawn it, then you become obligated to pay the person the money? Or is it the other way around, that by paying the person the money, you have already gotten the thing transferred to your ownership, and now all that's left is drawing it into your place. So he says, line 5, as one approach is, does the acquisition actually take place through the exchange of money? Dvar Torah, Mois Koines, like the opinion that according to the Torah, money itself already acquires it. I don't have to be there. I don't have to draw it. The object could be in the seller's possession the whole time. As soon as I gave money for it, now it's considered mine. Afterwards, I'm going to take it into my domain and make use of it. But the money is the beginning of the process. Or the other opinion is, or the money is something that I only give once I've acquired it, once I've made a kinyan through drawing it into my possession. So now I become responsible to pay the money, as we have discussed, as I've promised. What is these two types of opinions or types of approaches with money? The Gmas and Bekesef Beruchni is that their corresponding level in the spiritual idea of Kesef is Shekoy Alam Shacham Al Mailam. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. Shekoy Alam Shacham Al Mailam. The Kesef, the spiritual level of Kesef, we said, is talking about the drawing down from above. It's an inspiration from above that precedes and brings about the inspiration down here below. As we know, there's the kesef shalifnei mashiach. There is the money that's given before you draw. So the same thing, before we do the drawing showing on our avodah, before that, there's the kesef given, there is the money from above, there's this ava, the love from above. So that's one way how Hashem's inspiring us precedes our avoid. But the other type of way of acquiring through kesef is first we do Mashiach, then we have the kesef. Then there's another way, line 11, there's the inspiration from above that comes following and through the efforts of the inspiration down here below, which in Kinyan terms is the kesef shalachri HaMashiach. It's the money that follows the drawing. So first I need to draw it in. First I need to do Yisrus L'Osato. Then when I do the Yisrus L'Osato, so then as a result of that, as an outcome of that, so then I have the Yisrus L'Olela, I have the inspiration from above. So it goes on to say, the idea behind this is, in love itself, there are two levels. And based on these two levels, we can see about, does it precede the Mashiach? Does it follow the Mashiach? Is it something that awakens? Is it something that's a result of? He says, what are these two levels of love? They are known as Ahava Zuta, a minor love, Ahava Rab, and a great love. The minor love is the love that's based upon reason. What does it mean that's based upon reason? He meditates and thinks deeply into the fact that godliness is something good. By days and through meditating and thinking the fact that the godliness is something good, so then love is born in his heart. Love is created through that meditation in his heart. The Mayach Shalat Alev, the intellect brings about that love. But since it's based on my intellectual understanding of Hashem, so therefore the love automatically is something that is limited. This love is limited, it's measured, it has a boundary. The Kivan should know that the Asag is Aseichel, since it was created through the comprehension of intellect, so it's limited according to the intellect that gives birth to the to this emotion, because anything in general cannot surpass its creator. Since it was created by something that is limited, so it's going to be limited as well. So that is the whole idea. Seichel is limited, and Seichel understands to a certain degree how great Hashem is. So to that degree that the seichel appreciates how great Hashem is, to that degree will be the love for it. Just bring a simple example. I like something physically. So it has to do with how much I understand how much that thing is worthwhile. If I understand that this thing is worthwhile, that it will be good for me for a day, it will be good for me for a week, so then my love for it, my attraction for it won't be as strong as something that I realize will be, let's say, beneficial for a lifetime. Just to take a simple example. So we see how love and attraction, excitement is limited by and connected to the idea of how much I have an understanding and appreciation of something. Another problem, another limiting factor in the understanding that I have that limits the type of love that I have for Hashem. So he says, Magam, line 20, since the comprehension of intellect is only in the level of godliness that's enclosed in the world, it's impossible for human intellect to comprehend the level of godliness that transcends the world. So what can we understand? What can we appreciate? The level of godliness that's enclosed in the world. That level of godliness, by the very nature, since you're saying that's enclosed in the world, therefore it's a limited aspect of Hashem. Therefore, the resulting love cannot be in such a way that my soul aspires to Hashem, that my soul wants to leave my body. It's not in a way that goes beyond boundaries because it's based on an understanding of godliness that's limited. So what it evokes by me is also a limited reaction. Another limitation on my love that comes from meditating on Hashem is this love is born through understanding and meditating that godliness is good for him, for the person, like it says, that he is your life. Therefore, since we say that he, the Eibishter, is your life, therefore it's not applicable by this, the idea of the outpouring of the soul, that is something that's beyond his existence. In other words, like this, I love Hashem because he gives me life. That idea, he gives me life, he gave me life, he made my life, my whole life is dependent upon him. That type of understanding is not going to lead me to say I should nullify my life because of him. The whole reason I love him is because he gave me life. He gave me existence. I will not stop my existence. I will not reach a state of beyond existence because he supported my existence. That is all avazuta. That's called the minor love. Minor in this case means because it's limited. Limited makes it minor. Then there's a second level of love. Sometimes, by the way, in Chassidus, we will call also this love ahavas olam, love that's derived from the world, from the understanding of godliness that's enclosed in the world, like we said before. Then, line 28, but there's a great love. What is that great love? It's a love beyond reason and knowledge. It's beyond understanding. It's a super rational love. Top of page Yud. It comes down from above, meaning it's not something that I can evoke. It's not something that I can create from my intellectual understanding. Rather, when does it hit me? When does it come down from above? It just doesn't come down out of nowhere. I needed to do whatever I could in evoking a love based on my intellectual understanding, and then following that, Hashem will reward me with this greater love. I know after the perfection of his service, as much as he's able to reach through a love that's based on reason and understanding, then he attains and reaches the love that's beyond rational reasoning. That it comes from above because of Hashem's essential love to the Jewish people. And because of Hashem's essential love to the Jewish people, when that is shown and revealed to the person, so that inspires the person as well. Through that is awakened in the heart of a person the concealed love that's concealed in the nature of every single Yid from their birth. In other words, every Yid has an innate, super rational love within them. That's this Ava Rabim. The Ava Shalom it's a love beyond reason. And beyond measure and boundary. Then the Rebbe, breaks it down even further in the brackets. This love that's beyond reason, it's a super rational love. Yes, there's also two levels. It's a love like a flaming fire and a way of thirsting from below to above. That I'm thirsting to connect with Hashem. And there's a love of delight that comes from above to below, that I delight in Hashem's presence. Anyway, that's parenthetical. These two levels in love, the minor love, which comes based on my understanding and meditation, or the concealed innate love that's revealed through Hashem's love from above. These are connected with the two types of kesef, the two types of money, the one that follows Mashiach or precedes Mashiach. There's one level of kesef, is the inspiration from above that precedes and brings about inspiration down here below. Then there's then there's the inspiration from above that comes following and through the inspiration down here below. So he's going to explain this in connection with what we said before. That inspiration from above that precedes the inspiration down here below, the money that comes before drawing, which is money over here, kesef, from the word love. Love comes before my aliyah, before my Mashiach. That inspiration from above, that affects and that triggers that, because I experience this love from above, so that triggers by me to try to come to love Hashem through my own meditation. That is the minor love. So the kesef following the Mashiach, the love following, I'm sorry, the Mashiach, the kesef prior to Mashiach, that's a minor love because it's now my doing. But through the inspiration of above that follows my inspiration down here below, kesef shalach Mashiach, the money that follows drawing and pulling the item, comes about the love that's beyond reason, the great love of Hashem. Okay, let's stop over here. Any questions before we go on? Twice Dalet. Okay, we're holding Ice Dalet, line 24 in the 6th page of the copies. So now we're going to talk about the different kinyanim. And he's going to start first with the first kinyan that Hashem acquired. And if you remember, we said that all the kinyanim go in order except for Torah. Goes Shemayim va'aretz, there's Avram, there's Yisrael, there's the Migdash. Torah is out of order, even though Torah on the timeline came after Avram and after the Eden were taken out of Mitzrayim. But since Torah was 2,000 years before the world was created, so therefore, really in time, it precedes everything. So we're first going to explain that first kinyan of Torah. In those acquisitions that Hashem acquired in His world, He first enumerates Torah as one kinyan. In His Boil Sif Aleph, it's explained earlier in the first ice. This idea that Torah is the first of all the kinyanim is because it says 2,000 years Torah preceded the world. The idea behind this is, what's the inner meaning of the 2,000 years that the Torah preceded the world? Seemingly, The famous question that's always brought down, there's no time before the world was created. Time is the creation itself. So obviously, when we speak about 2,000 years, we're not talking about years in time, but we're talking about a whole different meaning of 2,000. So Chassidus always brings down the idea that Alpayim is from the word Alefcha Chochma, Alefcha Bina. It's the level of Chochma Bina related to the word Elef. So it comes from the level of intellect as opposed to the rest of the world, which comes from Midas, as he's about to say. The idea behind this is the coming into being of the worlds comes from the level of Hashem's emotional attributes, his character traits, like it says, remember your compassion and your kindness, because the simple meaning is that they are everlasting, or they've always been. But the way the Maimer is explaining it, meaning they are what's responsible for the world. Why is there a world? Thanks to Hashem's midas. And it says, I said that the world will be built by Chesed. So Chesed and all the rest of the midas are responsible for the creation of the world. As opposed to Torah from the level of intellect, even without going into Alpayim Shana, Alefcha Chochma, Alefcha Bina. Torah is a level of Chochma, the Chinese Baruch, Hashem's intellect. And therefore, preceded the world's top of page Yud Aleph now. That's the meaning of what it says in Pirkei Avos, that 5 acquisitions the Eibishter acquired in this world. Torah is one acquisition. We need to draw down the Torah. That's from the level of intellect. It's the first 3 levels of the spheres, Chachma Bina Das. And we have to do it, but we have to draw it down into the world. Like we said, Kinyan, the idea of acquisition, is nothing new was created. It's not Yesh Ma'ayin. It's taking what was there already in existence in the seller's domain and transferring it into the buyer's domain. The same thing, the world itself is from the level of Midas. Comes Hashem and makes a kinyan with Torah and takes the Torah and moves that and draws down the level of even not just the emotional aspects of Hashem should be in this world, but also the intellect should come down into the world. By days, through drawing down the intellect into the world that comes from the level of Midas, Nasa Kinyan becomes the acquisition. And what we say the acquisition is, it comes from the domain of multiplicity, to the private domain of Hashem. That the world should be elevated to a private domain, to become the world of Hashem. That's why he continues after that. What's the second one that he says? That the heavens and the earth are one kinyan. Through the Torah, that the Torah brings Hashem's level of intellect into the world, which is primarily from Hashem's emotion. Now that affects the next kinyan. That affects that the heavens and earth now become Hashem's acquisition. Through the Torah becomes also the acquisition, also in the heavens and the earth. They are elevated to the private domain of Hashem to be the world of the Eibishter. Like we said, it says Olamai now becomes his world instead of just being a world that looks separate. That's one idea in Torah Kinyan Echad. Now that I was going to add another concept in what it says, that the Torah is Kinyan Echad, the Oidin b'Torah Kinyan Echad. Another concept behind this is Shat Torah he echad me'achamisha kinyonim sheba olam shehi savusai mebchinas hamidas. Beforehand, we were talking about Torah being the levels of intellect, and the world is the level of emotion. But we were also saying chamisha kinyonim kana HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai. 5 kinyonim Hashem acquired in His world. So in a way, Torah is also one of those things in the world. Since Torah is one of those things in the world, so we need to see how Torah fits into this midos type of section of the world. So he says, that Torah is one of the 5 acquisitions in the world that comes into being from the level of midas. These 5 acquisitions that the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says contains in it the general idea of the emotional attributes. Avram we know Avram is the level of kindness. Avram is my beloved. Torah is the level of Hashem's strength and severity. It says at the beginning of Aseres HaDibros, who delivered Aseres HaDibros? Who spoke to Aseres HaDibros? It doesn't say Vaydaber Havaya El Moshe Leimer or Kol Bnei Yisrael Leimer. It says Vaydaber Elokim, which is very interesting because actually in many places in Chumash where it talks about different types of commands and different types of tzivuyim and different types of mitzvahs, including, look at our parsha. When Hashem told Moshe to count the Yidden, what does it say? Vaydaber Havaya Moshe Leimer, and Nasa is Reish Bnei Yisrael, is Reish Bnei Yisrael, and so on. It says Havaya command. Here, all of a sudden, where it talks about the Aseres HaDibros, which Aseres HaDibros is the klolus HaTorah, what does it start off with? Vaydaber Elokim, not Vaydaber Havaya. We also find that the Chazal called the level of Torah associated with Gvura. That it says, the Chazal used an expression that the 2 first ones of Aseres HaDibros, as opposed to the rest of them, we heard them from the mighty one. Gevura Daikit. He used specifically of all the different kinuyim that the Gemara uses for Hashem, all the different types of terminologies that Gemara Chazal use for Hashem. Over here by Aseres HaDibros, which one does it pick? The word Gevura. So therefore, Gevura shows on this idea of that Torah is this shows that Torah is a level of Gevura. So we have Avram, Chesed, Torah is Gevura. Yisrael, nice Lakach Shekoyal Zeram Klal Samidus. We know in general Yisrael goes on the midas in general. That it's that's the idea of Yisrael, but Koyal B'chiras Tiferes. It specifically goes on the mid of Tiferes because Yaakov Avinu was called Yisrael. Yaakov was Kavam Tzoy, the middle line, he's Tiferes. Kavam Tzoy, Shekoyal Ches Tegvura, it includes in it Ches Tegvura. Shemayim V'aretz, Koyal B'chiras Yisoid. Shemayim V'aretz goes on the level of Yisoid. Why is it going Yisoid? Like it says in the Pasuk, Yichol B'Shemayim V'aretz. It says, we say this in Shachar, it's a Kol Hashem, Agdul, Agvura, V'Tpres, V'Neitzma, V'Void, Kichol B'Shemayim V'aretz. What's Kichol B'Shemayim V'aretz? And then after the Kol Hashem, Malacha, that's Malchus. So we're going through all the spheres. What's Kichol B'Shemayim V'aretz? So he says, the Targum translates the Ochid B'Shemayim V'aretz. That joins the heavens and earth. What level, what sphere joins the heavenly levels and the earth levels? The earth levels in the sphere is Malchus. The lowest of all the spheres is called Eretz, it's called Malchus. The heavenly levels of spheres is Hashemayim, is a level, Shemayim, Chesed Gvura, and everything that's derived from it. So what's the connector? What's the Koil B'Shemayim V'aretz? That's the level of Yisoid. So therefore, the kinyan of Shemayim V'aretz, that's the level of Yisoid. Beis Hamikdash u'bechinas Malchus, and Beis Hamikdash is the level of Malchus. Because, like it says, "V'osli Mikdash shchanti b'soichem," they shall make from me a Mikdash, and I shall reside and rest within them. L'shoin Shechina Dafke, specifically an expression of Shechina, which shows undwelling, and we know the level of Shechina goes on the Koil B'chinas Malchus. Malchus is known by the term Shechina. Why? Because it rests and becomes enclosed down here below. So now the Rebbe took all the 5 kinyonim and showed how they go through all the midas, and we are going to explain tomorrow how these 2 explanations in Torah kinyan echad are going together. How does it have to do with the idea of all the midas, or it has to do with Hashem's wisdom, and so on. Any questions?